This chair is blocking. I'm Zoom meeting it, so we'll have a recording in case you don't have a secretary.
Yeah. Okay, this is one secretary. Thank you.
Great. That would be you. But I'll send you this anyway. Okay.
It would be who? Oh, okay, I thought you said all of them.
No.
All right, yes. So I'm playing my password.
Good morning.
You're gonna have to. I don't have any of the passwords.
I
So.
mean, whatever your magic you have to do, or you have to just say.
Or you can just watch it. Put it up on the screen. Since I brought the docking station today, I can do the HDMI. So that's fine.
Woohoo.
$8. Didn't cover the spread, they only won by 3. But on the road,
thought I can just roll back.
Yeah.
Right to the food.
Get the food.
and of course, Mark states that they don't play anybody.
Because the schedule they're given.
P16.
The schedule they're given.
Texas Tech will have, I think. Governor down there.
Texas Tech.
Very proud.
Sideways.
He hasn't even looked up.
His mouth's full, or he'd be telling.
First basketball game in a couple weeks, though, right?
Well, baby.
Robin Joseph Williams just texted. She lost power
Oh,
last night. Mm-hmm.
You know, I counted 2 today, right?
Yes. Let the secretary know.
Yeah, I'm eating for 2.
That would be Mark Dunham. So.
I didn't even bring a pen today. And it rained.
Come on, Elizabeth.
One minute after each other.
so you're saying no excuses?
Well, yeah, he got 7.
Olive Robin is asking for you to be her proxy. So you'll have to let the Robin Joseph Williams. So if any of you have proxies, let Mark know and who it is.
I've got
Oh, you've got him? Okay.
You can ignore mine because
the
he showed up.
Because the people who need the proxies aren't here, so.
Well, the people that have them should know.
Steve sent a note last night. Did you see that?
I did not.
He's not
Yes.
going to make it, so I'll be. But one of us.
I didn't tell Archer he was going to be my proxy. I just told Marty.
We have the last meeting.
Olive, I'm passing along. She's giving you proxy. You're welcome. She said, please pass it on.
Very people got younger and wiser and more handsome.
Yep.
On this proxy.
Yep. So I've got JR.
Oh, true. Every word's true.
Did you start the recording yet? So we have that recorded.
I do. But I'll say it just since I'm closer. So Larry Pete and Pohl gave JR proxy. Is that what you wanted me to say?
No.
No, just jokes we could play that. Whole younger.
Larry is younger. More handsome.
No, it's snooze spelled S-N-E-W.
Rowdy bus for 7 a.m.
I know, really.
No.
If you want to Germanize it, S-C-H-M-E-W.
Jason's over there. I can't believe I got up this morning. I had 2 hours of sleep last night.
I was
You
ready.
get-
I got more than that.
So I did, I can't get there.
It didn't, usually it sends me an email to approve.
Well, it's, the website's having problems.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everybody in history of log in. Reset.
You
You can read it, I won't mean a thing to me, but go ahead.
Good try.
It's been like 2 hours.
All right, so we are at 7, or just after 7, we do have a quorum. We have 12 people, and then we have proxies. Olive is Robin's proxy. Jason is Matt's and Patrice's proxy. So make sure you convince Jason why we want to vote, because he's got to make or break it. They are Larry, and then Greg. All right, Olive, thank you for sponsoring breakfast.
Yes.
Or would you like to kick us off with Greg?
I did, yes, and God is. Oh Lord, you are the light that guides our feet. You are the map that gives us direction. You are the peace that makes us strong. You are the leader who we faithfully follow. May your light illuminate our lives. May your guidance bring direction to our lives. May we find inspiration in your word and peace in our hearts as we follow you. Amen.
All right, thank you. Welcome. Yes, everybody knows everybody, right? No special guests. News, updates, what's going on? What's everybody got going on? Fun stuff. Excited to pull up this morning.
That's a new one last night.
They did. They did. What's your record?
8-0. Man, they're going to the college football playoff. Look at that, man.
Golf tournament 2 weeks into that. Already got a team.
Jason.
I'll be out of town, unfortunately. I want a free trip to Phoenix. Sorry, I'm gone to Phoenix. It doesn't rain.
Yeah, we'll take that. We're shooting a 65.
Have fun. Hurricane Creek, 2 weeks from today. It's
Yes.
Got them started in lunch.
yeah, 65 range. It's top 10.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that.
Thanks for playing.
I usually shoot a 65, but I'm taking with the team and maybe down to 30.
Just keep buying those mulligans.
Yeah. And do you know if there's still foursomes open? I know Mark.
I believe there are.
So Mark can give you the information.
I gotta find a team first. I'm sure already turned it down. You're not going to get
Yeah, it's all golf clubs. What else?
Birthday bash
Birthday bash coming up.
this Saturday.
We had a great turnout at the braces.
Yeah.
Had it outside. There's so many people there. So wonderful event on Wednesday. All right, so we already talked about who's not here and who the proxies are. Agenda review and updates. I forgot to put under the consent the minutes from September. They were included in the meeting request, but I just didn't list them in the consent items. For exec committee, I'll also talk about sample committee reports that Celeste and I have talked about. And then Celeste for CEO operations, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the Lana Murphy for that stuff.
Okay.
Anything else that we want to add to the agenda or question? All right, so for consent items, we have the covenant and the QAC. Again, the covenant is electronic, so by our vote today, we will approve the covenant, and that'll go on record and get submitted to National. Along with the QAC, we had gone through this last time and sent the documents out, so hopefully that's a no-brainer, and then the minutes for September were included in the packet as well. So in case you haven't noticed, we're trying to go more paperless instead of having big stacks of paper here for everyone to follow through. I'm trying to get that 1 week ahead of time. So by Friday evening, Saturday morning at the latest, the week before the meeting, I want to try and get all the documents out so everyone has opportunity to go through them. So, if there are people that still are dependent upon the paper, we can work with Celeste to have those available.
That's not included in the treaty.
Well, because we don't have financials yet, so it would be mostly blank. So I just didn't print it out
For September.
for September, right? And you had July and August last meeting, so there's no new financial information yet because of audit.
So that's what you meant by the page.
The dashboard.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion for the consent items.
So moved.
And we're looking at the consent items.
Olive moved.
Second.
JR second.
Any questions or discussion items? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Go 3 times.
Yes.
He's a pirate.
One of them was
All right. The consent agenda was approved. Thank you. And we'll get the QAC submitted. Again, that's one of our annual items we have to go in as well as the covenant. So proxies, make sure you inform your people that they approved it so they ever ask a question. I don't know what that covenant thing is. That's a good thing that I approved for you. All right. Agenda items, executive committee. So one item came out of executive committee, and it was we needed to get the health insurance approved. So just like most companies or whatnot, there's an annual open enrollment for health benefits. We review ours on an annual basis. The HR committee reviewed theirs. They presented to executive committee because they needed to get it approved. So it was approved at exec committee. So that committee kind of took that action for the board. We need to get that pushed through. I don't think I included it in there.
Yeah.
It was in there. So,
It was 84%. We're keeping it at the same percentage coverage. It did go up some, and we're still on Blue Cross Blue Shield.
so it's kind of a rubber stamp on it. So nobody could think so the next thing is sample committee reports. So I worked with Celeste. So one of the directions they want us to take is have, now that we have our committee structures that we're putting in place, have those committees submit monthly reports. Those monthly reports will go out to the board. If there's items that those committees need the board approval on, those will be brought down into the agenda for discussion or potentially consent. If there's nothing in there, basically those reports sit out there so you can go through and see what's happening in each one of the committees. And when we talked about format for this, let's see if I can pull this up. So what we did is we did an example of the campaign leadership team. So one of the things we talked about is we love our charts and graphs, right? So as an example for the campaign leadership team, don't look at these numbers. These numbers were just put in to do the status example. But one of the things we'd like to see from that team is, for instance, where we stand from a pledge, from the letter of intent. So as we get the letter of intent in, where does that stand from a dollar amount? What's the scheduled receipt to date? So looking at that trend, and then the actual receipt. Those are kind of three of the key things we talked about putting in maybe from a trend perspective. There's other things they have underneath that, and maybe we can include that in a page too. So From a pledge perspective, are those gifts in kinds? Is it actual dollars? What's coming in from that perspective? As well as we could have some grant stuff in there. So it's more of a breakdown of that, a pie chart of where that money's coming from. So basically looking to get that quick view in there as to where things stand. Highlights, concerns, issues, risks. So just some bulleted items that you guys can look through and call out. So as an example here, actual dollars received increase with the North Texas Giving Day. That's something we would have expected anyways, right? So that's something that they can follow. That's an example of a risk in here. So Celeste owns a relationship with majority of the targets. So they have your spreadsheet with the targets in there, and Celeste's name is on a lot of those. So that's something that we may want to look at from a risk perspective. And then JR, who's been supporting, has had a lot of opportunities come up at work. So he's had to step aside for some increased workload there. List of participants at the meeting, and then just a narrative, kind of what's going on this month and where they stand and then submitted by. So we'll look to put these in place for each one of the committees. So family services, whatnot. We'll each have these reports that will come in every month. We'll get those out a week ahead of the meeting so folks can look through and kind of see what's going on across the committees. Questions, thoughts, comments?
We did have Shannon added to the committee.
To the CLT?
Yes. Yay.
Anyone else?
Will these be finalized at the executive by the time that we meet as executive committee, or is it between the executive committee and the board meeting?
So that's where we need to work out the schedules. I know finance is really working to figure out what that cadence is going to be. I know you struggled with that, Greg and Hunter, to figure out what that timing is and when you can get the monthly reports and whatnot. Celeste, what do you think? Should they be in place at the executive committee, or?
It would be probably the previous months by the executive committee. So
yeah,
I would think yes.
So
they'd have to have them complete by the first week of the month.
The second Monday, so the earliest they would have to have it done would be the 8th, right? Mm-hmm. It could be as late as the 15th, something like that. So that should work. So they should be done ahead of the executive committee.
That makes sense, because that way at the board meeting, there might be some discussion of it, which could be incorporated into
their next meeting.
The next board or whatever.
And we can work to try and get them out ahead of time at the executive committee, but maybe it's something we bring up in review at the executive committee.
The reason I ask is because the window's pretty short, so
yeah,
you don't have much time to go into this.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions on executive committee stuff or what we talked about? All right, Hunter, do you want to talk about financials?
Absolutely. So, high level, three things that we've asked or tasked Ruthie with is to get us on a good schedule of when we'll receive, so that we can review the financials, so that the finance committee can report to the executive committee, and then that data or the summary of that can flow to the board as large as a whole. The second thing is identify any trends, positive or negative, that she sees in the financials, kind of backwards looking and then forward looking, identify any major outflows over, say, the next 60 to 90 days. Additionally, part of her summary this month or earlier this month, looking back to July and August, I asked her to provide a debt schedule so that we had an idea of what lines of credits are out there from Legacy or Inwood or North Dallas Bank and Trust, and what those requirements look like, so that we understood what potentially the debt burden is on the affiliate, as well as give us an audit status. So those 5 things were the top 3 things, keeping those in mind. She prepared the July and August financials. We are not on a good time schedule, kind of going back to what your concern was, Craig. And it doesn't have to be, the timing of the executive. I'm not saying that it needs to be a week later that we get those prior months, it's unrealistic for Ruthie. I mean, it's a 2-week turnaround for her. I think she says closer to 10 days, 7 to 10 days, but let's find a more appropriate time frame and say 2 weeks for her. So we may not be reviewing the financials in real time, but if she is helping us identify those positive or negative trends in the financials and then projecting out cash flow needs, then I feel like from a board governance standpoint, we have enough information to figure out what's going on. She did not give me a response on the trends one way or the other, so I just kind of an idiot's glance through the financials for July and August. I didn't see anything that was out of whack in terms of the budget. I mean, there's some fluctuations here and there, and then it's usually bridged by either the MCDC grant for cotton groves, and some of that is definitely, that project is merged into the cash flow statement. So it's real, I mean, you've got this cash flow statement that is a hodgepodge of different projects and activities, and it's real hard to track all that, which is part of why we want to do that schedule. Point is, I didn't see any negative or positive trends one way or the other. I'll try and ask her to get in the habit of providing that analysis to us to make it a little more streamlined. Major outflows over the next 90 days. She does have a couple. She has a recycle home for $85,000, purchase of a Wiley lot for $45,000, and then obviously the cotton groves, which there are debt and grant dollars assigned to that, so we can kind of remove that from the equation. And she identified how we have restricted funds to take care of the lot and the recycled home. So again, from the banker standpoint, it's, are we matching our uses of funds with, do we have appropriate sources of funds, or are we having to go borrow all that money? So she didn't respond with anything that concerns me on the finance, or us on the finance committee that I can think of. Greg?
Well, it wasn't tied into the conversation, though. You were trying to work out the format and work out the details, so I wasn't involved in it. Okay. We haven't had a finance committee meeting yet. We haven't figured out the timing. I would say that I really was sorry to see Madeline leave. We really need to find someone in a similar stature that can play that role. I think it's important to have a different view. I think having 3 people on the finance committee is important, and having someone who's also a CPA is really important. I don't know if there's some other, keep looking, how many roles can you fill? But maybe through our contacts, there's someone that we know, accounting firm. It's too bad the car is over in Fort Worth, so it's not practical, but we really need another person, I think, to help funnel the discussion. I think we should look into that.
And this month has been very hectic for me, but I had approached Shannon after the last meeting about coming on the finance committee, so with the expertise and having that 3-person committee like you mentioned. So that'll be something I'll try and refocus on going forward. On the 5th item that she updated us on is the audit status, which is still ongoing. They had some follow-up questions, but it had to do mostly with, I think, benefits and payroll and just kind of general housekeeping items. But as of the 15th of this month, that was still ongoing. Celeste, do you think they finalized the audit?
No, not yet. They were here one day this week, Wednesday, I think. So I think hopefully they have everything they need.
And so those were the 5 things that she covered, or we asked her to cover, and then or asked her to cover, and then she didn't identify the trends, but we'll get in the habit of doing that.
So I'm sorry.
Is that an official request, Greg and Marty, to bring on another board member and potentially a CPA?
That's why I looked at Jason for nominating committee. That would be something that we want to start recruiting for.
Yes. No. Yes.
Actually, there's another role as well, in terms of searching for people and thinking about, it would really be nice if we had someone with a strong HR background. I know that the HR committee has been wrestling with trying to get their work done with basically Larry doing that with some assistance. We're going to make a list of people that that's strategically important to bring on, that's another one. If anybody has any contacts with people in that HR community.
I know she has time. It just got bought by her. So she's like, I don't know what I want to do.
So and one of the things I'll point out is, again, it's a nominating committee, but part of the committee structure is, to have enough people to fulfill those committees and serve with, especially with some of the expertise we're looking for. That doesn't mean we need to bring them all on board, right? We can have volunteers, we can have subject matter experts participating. So, if they want to join the board, if they're interested in the fiduciary responsibility, all those commitments of being on the board, then yes, we should push in that direction. But just because we need a certain skill set doesn't necessarily mean you have to go through that whole process. So you have people that have HR skill sets or no CPAs, whatnot. Please suggest to the committee with chairs, and let's try and engage them.
So I know we haven't had a chance to connect yet, but I am a CPA, so we're going to connect.
Right.
That was fast.
Check.
That's how I work. Good job. Good job.
Just get it down, right?
Well, Shannon, I kind of thought that what Hunter was kind of looking at expertise. It's not saying. I know we've been.
Awesome.
So that leaves an HR person. And we are one member down on board, right?
We are. So we have Natalie's position to fill, and if we think that we have more needs from a board perspective.
Well, the one advantage, if you happen to know someone who is in a higher level position with one of these companies, there's a network of HR people. They can bring a lot of power to an organization through the network. So if you strategically know someone who fits that role, that would be awesome to get them on the board. If you have a specialist that's not at that level, maybe that's also good. But my wife was in HR. She's not interested. She got enough volunteer efforts, but their networking has a lot of power to it.
All right. So we have an open item to approve the July and August financials because we postponed that last month because we hadn't had a chance to look at it. So
We motion to approve July and August.
all right.
Mark motion. Who's second?
Mary,
Mary second.
any further question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Thank you, Finance Committee, aka and Shannon, our newly CPA. So. All right, advocacy. So, as many of you know, advocacy is one of the things that it talks about from a board member perspective. So one of the things I wanted to start adding to the agenda was an advocacy discussion. So some of it's just open, what ideas do people have? What types of things have people done to act as an advocate for Habitat in the community and whatnot? And then looking at, do we need a 30, 60, 90-day plan? I know our strategic plan was a little light this year because we were transitioning into the 3 houses and figuring out how all that was going to be impacted, but advocacy was one of those houses. So I think we need to kind of put together a 30, 60-day plan as to what that's going to look like. How are we going to touch? I can't remember off the top of my head, Celeste, but it was thousands of people from an advocacy perspective. So potentially we need to be looking at getting in front of certain groups within the community and whatnot to talk about what we do. It's not just about getting houses, improving lives, right? It's ending that poverty, ongoing poverty housing. Right? So, anybody have anything that they've done that they want to spotlight around advocacy?
I have 2 things that we need help with. So in Wiley, we're trying to get an affordable housing ordinance in place. So if you can keep pushing that, I've given them all the documents from the other cities, but in that transition, we're slowing down quite a bit in the city. So we can.
That is the one I need to.
Yes. So that's something we need before we start another house in Wiley, because we don't want to do more garages. That'll help that. Also, Habitat International has a cost of home campaign that has tons of materials that we can push out to you to get the message out that, nobody should pay more than 30% of their monthly income in housing. More than a certain number of people are paying 50% or more. So we have a lot of information that you can use to just keep the cost of home as a very high level with all of our legislatures, city councils.
And I know Matt was very interested in that. He unfortunately had to, couldn't make it this morning, so we'll look to have him kind of help us out in this area. Anything else? Any other advocacy questions, thoughts, ideas? I know at the golf tournament, I plan to get around to the different tables and talk to people. I also know we have some key targets for the capital campaign there as well. So try to get the right people. So. Okay, so I just wanted to get that on there. We need to be thinking about this. What are the different things we can do? Is it a Sunday school class, or is it some group that we work with, or that we communicate with on a regular basis? We need to reach out to them to get us up to those number of lives that people are up to speed on really what Habitat is and what our affiliate does and what we're looking to do. All right. The next one is risk. So we talked a little bit about this last time. I mentioned we wanted to go into a little bit more detail. So as I look at what we're our governance manual.
Can we make it bigger a little bit? I don't know if anybody else can. Little light. You can't read it? Okay.
I'm no benchmark because I can't read.
Okay.
Excuse me. So one of the things I've noticed as I've been using this this manual to kind of drive making sure we're doing things we need to do is there are 23 topics in this manual. So in this content, there's roughly 23 topics in here. Most of them are just a one-page item. It's maybe one page, page and a half. Here's kind of what you need to do, whatnot. There's 2 items in here that are 4 pages apiece that kind of take up almost 25% of the episode. One of them is bringing on board members, what it takes. So it clearly falls to the nominating committee. How do you identify who you need on your board? What are they supposed to be responsible for? You kind of know that. The other piece is risk. And in section 3.10, there's managing enterprise risk. And we as a board are held accountable for the risk of this organization. They have a very elaborate plan in here. Has everyone been able to go out and see this?
Which specific documents is there?
This is the affiliate handbook. Yep.
Called Board Governance Manual for U.S. Affiliate Organization.
So it talks about what is risk, what is enterprise risk management. They, some of the sources they list in here, I know from my professional career, are similar sources that we've used. What's the board relationship with all around sound governance principles? Current topics extremely important. Ensuring effective implementation of the framework. So they kind of have this, oversight that the board provides, and then from a risk perspective, kind of what operationally needs to be done to identify, list objectives, identify potential risks, identify mitigation actions, assess controlled risk scores. There's a whole risk score section in here. So we've got 10 risks we've identified. What filter up to the top that we really need to address? What is something that we just need to be aware of? What is something that we need to take action on? What is something that we need to notify Habitat for Humanity International that we have a major risk to? So they have that whole structure in there. I don't know if we go to that level of detail, but it's called out in here. So one of the things I wanted to do was start to make sure we talk about risk. If you'll notice in the committee report we put together, there's a section in there so they can call out where they feel that they have risks. Again, bringing those into executive committee is something the executive committee can review and then bring to the board to say, you've got a risk here. From an awareness perspective, make sure you're aware of this. From a mitigation perspective, we need to put something in place to address this, or we need to notify health international. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was what are our biggest risks? So how do we kind of get this, not necessarily a list of objectives, but identify what the potential risks are. So I know Celeste probably has some in the back of her head, but I wanted to open it up to the board to get from your perspective, where do you think our risks lie?
I think you brought it up about the donors for cotton grows, and Celeste is the key relationship there.
From what perspective?
The economy slows down, we see less donations.
That's something that I think is important. Usually when you see a campaign, you see the thermometer, right? And here's how we're trying to get to our goal. We've got letters of intent, but there also has to have the money behind it, right? That's something that I've talked to Celeste about in the past from a Carpenters Club perspective, right? We have people who commit to Carpenters Club, but we actually know that if it's $50,000 that's committed to Carpenters Club, we get $50,000 every year to Carpenters Club, or looking at some of those types of things. What else?
I know we're still working. I know there's an ongoing progress made, but there's concern there. We all kind of want to ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, it first popped up, right, because from a financial perspective, right, we were losing money because of the lease, and we need to go address the lease and all of that. Then we had Larry step in, and Larry provided some good insight from a retail perspective as to how they can change and set up a little bit better. But, you know, if you look at the restore report that they submitted, it doesn't really get back to where are we from a financial perspective. Have these changes made an impact that first brought this out as a risk? And do we need to make sure that committee focuses back on that piece of it as to how we address it? I'll throw one out there that I know I've talked to Celeste about, which is not just the campaign leadership and the money coming in for cotton groves, but the actual delivery of it. I think we have some risk there with, you know, are we going to go with J.D. Lee and his group to manage as a general contractor? I think is the term they're looking at to do the actual build of all that stuff. Is that something we feel we can do through our construction team? You know, how are we going to address that, ensure we stay on schedule? There's a lot of materials we need to do this, materials that we may not have used before, right? Because it's a different type of build. Could those costs increase? You know, economical impact, right? Could we see those costs go up? And you know, is that going to change what we need from a campaign leadership perspective and a funding perspective? So I think it's actually delivery of the project or program.
You know, the challenges anytime get involved in something like this is trying to find the right level. You know, DC start getting farther down. You know, from a macro level, I would say cotton grows at the very past. It's a big risk because we got a lot of hand. You know, from a reputational standpoint, in terms of leverage for us to go forward. So I would say it's a from a enterprise risk, that would probably be one of the biggest ones that we have. And then maybe another one would be serving the other communities. You know, that can't take, we still have other obligations for the repair program and for the other. So the risk that we would lose ground in building, maintaining our build for our stick-built homes and for repairs, you know, that would be another big risk. And Or we store operations, obviously. You know, if we're not able to maintain some level of profitability or close to profitability, then it becomes a piece of strain, which could extend for a while. You know, when you start thinking about it, it's trying to stay at the macro level, because each risk you can break down into further granular pieces. I don't know what level you're trying to get.
And so again, and I think that's part of this circle here. So it's identify potential risks, identify mitigation. So down in here is that kind of the threat assessment, I think they call it, or the heat map. You know, we could have a risk that's negligible or very rare, right? So it's something that, you know, we may document, but unless it climbs up the chart, you know, we don't address it at this point. And then you've got catastrophic and almost certain. So, you know, what's the, this is breakdowns, what's the likelihood this is going to happen, and then what is needed. So a lot of times things that are small grow big. So it's good to call them out when they're small. We may not need to address it right away.
Well, I think there's a different question, though. There's the level of risk, which is, I think, what you're talking about. But then there's a different view that says, are we approaching only strategic risks or operational risks? Like an operational risk might be, do we back up our computer systems, for example? So that's not, you know, kind of big ticket items, but if all of our computer systems were to go down, that might be pretty significant in terms of our ability to keep doing the stuff. So I think there's two different views that we need to look at, in my opinion. We need to look at both those.
Yeah. And so again, with the committee reports and whatnot, Celeste, from an operations perspective, you know, maybe Gary submits an operational report, right? Status of where things lie. I know there's been a lot of discussion around IT here and equipment and whatnot. So yeah, that's something that we want to make sure that they're bringing to our attention in this report.
So you're looking for, are we looking for more examples of, I guess, more strategic risk?
Anything you want, Hunter.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're dealing with consumer finance, so mortgage compliance, laws, under whatever it might be. Just make sure that we're partnering with the right partner, for lack of a better term, keep us out of issues.
I mean, would it make sense to assign this to one of the committees, like maybe the finance committee, to develop? What I'm imagining in my mind is kind of an internal audit sort of matrix of risks that any organization would go through. So you have, again, both strategic and operational, and there may be 50 of those risks that we come up with, and they range from big ticket strategic items to small things like we don't have a working backup for our IT systems. And then we can make an assessment as to where we think those fall on the heat map of, you know, how important it is to the organization, and that will prioritize how we need to address them, come up with mitigation plans. So I would think maybe we should give this to the finance committee, for example. Develop that big laundry list and then come back with a prioritization of here are the whatever 5 things that we think are the top of the list that we need to tackle first, and come back to the board.
The booklet that he's got up on the screen, and I was just looking at it. It says include strategic, operational, financial, legal, compliance, governance, and reputational risk. So they have, from a macro level, they have even 5 or 6 broad, very broad categories.
So I mean, if you're looking for volunteers, I'm happy to take that on. I have some experience with that as well. I'm happy to try to catalog that big, long list, but I'll be pinging everybody for their input, of course, on that.
Sure.
Would Habitat already have like the generic toolbox of what these risks are? I mean, we're the same organization, right? So I would think they maybe someplace already have the details on much of this. I mean, the reputational risk is going to be the same for.
I'm sure if they do, it's on my Habitat.
That's a good idea, though. So we don't need to recreate the wheel. We can, surely somebody's gone through this before.
And as part of their strategic plan, they did identify, you know, the risks. So in the 3 Houses book, if you go deeper into it, into that section, you know, these are the big picture risk to the organization.
Yeah, I think the categories of risks,
Mhm.
there's probably something there like you just mentioned. The other thing is there's stuff that comes from Habitat for Humanity for International. There's a Yammer site out there. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Yammer. It's part of Microsoft Office Suite. It's just a discussion area. You can go out and ask questions and whatnot. And there's Board Source. I know we have free access to Board Source that I signed up for. You can go out there and ask questions. I think that's more open. It's not just Habitat, but it's general board nonprofits and whatnot.
Board Source is on Yammer. You know, you said.
If you go into My Habitat,
Yeah.
search for Board Source, and you can sign up for a free account.
Okay.
So I've actually gone in and looked at what other affiliates do, right? So there's a lot of templates that they have out there for their status report, you know, putting thoughts together around what that status report needs to look like. It's showing out some what some other affiliates have done. So getting those categories, I think we can do some research on that, but when it comes to the actual risks, you know, that's going to be something that I think is a little more specific. And I'll throw out an example. One of the things with our wall,
Retaining wall.
our retaining wall, some people in the neighborhood are becoming very vocal about it. So last I said, what do they call Channel 5 or Channel 8? Get one of those investigative reporters out there. Well, I've got this habitat home and my backyard's falling away into this creek, and it's been 2 years now, and right, so that's an example of one of our reputational risks to address. And I think Celeste reached out to Brian, who had a relationship with folks in the neighborhood, and was able to have some conversations there.
And we have a lot of legal, not risk, but a lot of legal issues, more than we've ever had before. So that would be a highlight.
I mean, with this QA checklist that we go through, the process should be written to address these risks. We had the risk, Habitat developed a policy, it became part of the operations department, it became part of the checklist. So we do the QA to say that we agree with the checklist. So it seems like, from my mind, from a high level, all of this kind of the bigger ones, not unique to the organization, have already been addressed, built into the QA. And like mortgages, I mean, to your point, mortgages is one of the items that's in the QA checklist. So the risk is already been categorized.
Yeah, and I'll say I was kind of surprised at how generic that QA checklist was, right? I mean, some of the stuff is, you know, you have the equal housing logo on your website. Any documents you send out.
You have a phone,
Yeah.
an email address. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that that's the minimal for a Habitat affiliate to be compliant. Those are just the minimal standards.
And it's a yes or no question, right? It's really your response. So they can't get into too much detail because then you tough to answer.
I just didn't want to run through the whole process and say, okay, well, actually, we've got to it.
Yeah.
The QA checklist did most of what was the generic risk, the legal risk.
And we do have that stuff in place, right? So
Okay.
we're doing the financial background checks on people. So there are things we have in place to mitigate risk. So maybe some of the other stuff that we can look into.
So let's back what you just said. What are the legal challenges aside from the?
So the Pride Court wall is in court. We have attorneys assigned to it. We've sued both parties. One has gone out of business, so we're down to only one. They're hopefully going to settle. So if that does happen, then we can get it fixed, but we can't touch it until the legal process.
Right.
We have probate court that we have to go through. Most of the properties we end up getting have a lot of legal challenges when you get to the title commitment and Schedule C, and the list of things are getting a lot longer. Like this last one had 3 pages of things that had to be resolved. So we have to go to the city of Wiley and get them to sign off on things that should have been done when another buyer went to the court to buy it in the tax court. Well, they were never released. So there's all these liens still existing. I mean, it's just every day it's getting a lot more complicated, and we're getting into a lot more legal things that we have to deal with.
I know you said legal risk, and then you changed that to legal items or issues, but it is legal risk.
It is. It is risk. So, I mean, I'm going to court a lot more than I ever have. So it's just the nature of the organization side of growing.
So do you handle a lot of that yourself?
Yeah.
Do larger affiliates have somebody that focuses more on that?
If they have an attorney on staff, but that's only the very, very large affiliates. None our size have that. They sometimes have it on their board, but it's so specialized. Like I had to get 5 attorneys to resolve one issue because they're so specialized. I can't have a generalist. It has to, and you have to have all of them on one case to make it go through the process. So,
and we do have a list of attorneys that have provided us, so that I don't know if they're pro bono or not.
yeah, most of them are pro bono. So.
It is very specialized. I mean, we've had
Yes.
special lawyer as well. We provide services for these services.
I mean, there's real estate. There's
What else you got?
It's all tax.
What else you got? Lawyer, your CPA, fireman, surgery.
Sleep on Holiday Inn Express.
And another risk that's completely out of our control is the appraised values. That is something that we can't hold. We can hold what they have to pay in taxes because we have a taxing jurisdiction, but we can't control the appraised value. And it's going out of control. I don't know how many of you know, but our last one just came in at 236 for a recycled home, which is insane. In Wiley. Yeah. Appraised value.
But the risk really to us comes into play on the recycled homes, right?
No, the risk comes in the dollar value on the dissipating lien, because the higher the appraised value, no matter what we're selling it for, that dissipating lien is growing. It used to be 10,000, now it's 70,000. So it's a forgivable lien, but it's still owed to us if it ever sells. So we're just holding a larger forgivable lien balance.
Explain to us that those of us that don't understand, because what I understand is that if it costs you this much and you sell it for that much, forgivable lien seems to be a non-issue really. Why does it really matter? It's what it kind of seems like to me. It's going to be forgiven anyway. Why does it matter whether it's 10,000 or 50,000?
It's not always forgiven. If they sell it, because I know the South Collin County did it very differently, but ours has the exact same terms as the first lien. So if they have a 30-year mortgage on the first lien, the dissipating lien is 30 years. So if any time during that time they either default, it goes into foreclosure, or they sell, whatever is remaining on that dissipating lien becomes a payable note, and the rest of it is due.
So you can't, so we couldn't cap that dissipating lien because that would be, I mean, that would be potentially, I guess, a taxable event for them, because then that's, you're giving them something, right?
Remember we had this discussion last year when we were going through all the metrics.
Yeah, but we were talking about cash. So what the impact was of cash, not necessarily could we cap it at a certain amount, right?
We did talk about that too.
Yeah.
We're not going to get blood out of a turnip on that deal. So really the risk is theirs, right?
Yeah, I mean, the risk, right, the risk is the homeowners, potentially. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to keep their risk as low as we can.
Right,
I think maybe we put too much emphasis that it's an issue that's their issue.
right.
Well, the lien is, to me, it's an accounting transaction. I mean, from a practical standpoint, we bought it at a pretty good price because we were able to get it at foreclosed value. And then we're going to sell it at whatever we'd agree to sell it to. The appraised value just puts this is what the reasonable market value is. And so
We have to sell it at the appraised value.
but I mean, in essence, the homeowner is really getting it minus the dissipating lien value. From a practical standpoint, they're not buying it at the 220.
Yeah, they're only paying back what they can afford. And so, except if they go to foreclosure, then there's potentially deficiency balance that is
So
much higher than that.
from a practical standpoint, as long as we're acquiring it less than what we're selling it for, to the homeowner, it's not really much of an issue for us.
It's kind of like the value of WeWork, 2 months ago, versus today.
Now we're going down a road.
But it doesn't become realized until it happens. That's the big thing. Is we can keep on books, and that's where the discussion last year went about. These dissipating values and how large they were, et cetera, because of the appraisal value, which, as Celeste points out, we can't do anything about that. And it shows up on our books, and we looked at, okay, should we limit it? Should there be a metric in place to look at what that dissipating value is, or lien is? But it doesn't actually come a realization or an issue until you actually a transactable event happens, which is sale or default or foreclosure.
Right. The only other alternative is to raise the threshold, right? So you have to raise the threshold of people that can afford the home.
We can't.
But I mean, if you did that, then you could lower the.
We agreed as a board that we would track it, and that was all we did. Because we can't do anything else about it.
We got above a certain amount.
But it becomes one of these unknown unknowns, or one of these known unknowns. You know it's a risk, you know it's there, it's potentially there, but you also know that it isn't going to happen until there's a transactable event that pulls it.
In those transactable events, sorry, Joey. We saw some of those last year, right, where someone sees what the value of their home is, and then they want to sell it. And then someone comes in and sees what the market value is and wants to buy it at or around that price.
Right.
And then we have to have that discussion with the homeowner to say, listen, yeah, you're going to get money for this if you sell it for that, but you're not going to be able to go into the same situation you're in today, or where your mortgage is and all that. You're going to get a chunk of money, but over time that's going away, right? So
You're also going to have to pay us back.
yeah,
The dissipating value.
We're just having a whole lot more events than we've ever had before.
More hassle.
yeah.
So as you mentioned, the term for South Collin County, the way they were doing it was different. How did that play out? What did that look like?
It was 5 years, and we couldn't claw it back. Or there was no, we couldn't, if they sold it within that time period, we couldn't get the remainder back. It was a wash, given free.
And essentially, it was
So we can't
much
recapture
smaller
it.
values, and it was really attributed to the value of the lot that we acquired it from. And typically, we got that through a Plano City grant. So from a transactional standpoint, it wasn't a huge amount of money. But it did come to bite us when people came in and they wanted to sell it. And all of a sudden, they were getting pretty large cash rewards out of these houses that they hadn't been in that long. We didn't have it in the mortgage like we do in the current situation. So now we're both, to me, this is not as much of a risk. It protects us. It protects us from the homeowner turning around and selling the home and getting an unreasonable cash value off their house.
Okay. Anything else on risk?
We talked about advocacy and the issue in Wylie, so municipality risks, changes in codes, laws, whatever.
I wonder what risk we have in Plano because of our loss of traction building in Plano, of donations really going down because people who want to support something in Plano don't have anything to support in Plano now through that other than our rehab stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing really good at other places, but I mean, I don't know if we pick up some kind of steam some way to start building in Plano again. It's like maybe the only alternative is buy existing structures and rehab.
The city of Plano is having that issue too, because they're out of land. So they're going in and they just passed an ordinance for ADUs, accessory dwelling units. So people can come in and build one on their existing lot to either rent out or have somebody to increase their housing stock, because there is no more.
As an example, do you think we have a risk of losing substantial amount of donations because we're not building in Plano, or is that a non-issue?
I mean, they're going to Wylie, Salina, McKinney, the sponsors that we had in Plano. So we've actually gained more since the merger. So I don't really see, they just want to come build they really don't care where.
But something to
Yeah.
kind of keep our eye on, right?
I mean, the one that we have, we're buying back is already fully sponsored. We could build it 3 times with sponsors that want to build in Plano, so.
Well, I guess people are probably donating in Highland Park and they're not building in Highland Park.
That's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're happy with it.
Anything else around the risk? Good discussion. I think it's good to keep our thoughts around this and thinking through this. So I've got a list of items here. Shannon, I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
As to what the list is, and we can kind of figure out how that needs to get sorted out or what the next steps are there.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Celeste, you have an update, CEO?
I do. You want the video first, or you want the other updates first? Video? Okay.
Popcorn?
In McKinney starts in the parking lot of Habitat for Humanity. Every person in America should be afforded an opportunity to have a piece of that American dream. A home is a part of that dream. It looks nothing like one now, but these 4 shipping containers put together make one affordable home.
I would think we'll cut our construction timeline in half.
The plan is for 35 homes, all shipping containers, part of a townhome village called Cotton Grove. It is a project that is unprecedented.
We have a lot of people watching it from across the United States, from other Habitat affiliates.
In 1 month, Habitat got 365 applications for mostly these homes. Just to qualify, your income has to be between $24,000 and $42,000 a year for a family of 4. Also, put in hundreds of hours of community service and live or work in Collin County. I'm actually standing where the kitchen will be. JB Lee gave us a tour of the prototype, what will soon be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. Took those, cut them out, secured them, and prefab them, ready to be deployed on site as individual models. Those 4 of them. It is a chance to own a home. A mortgage, they promise, is not more than 30% of the gross monthly income. So these containers were actually in service. They started off in China on a cargo ship and made its way to the U.S. to Long Beach, California. So it once carried cargo will soon carry a family. I can now say, we own the American dream. In McKinney. I'm Joe McKinney.
So that was yesterday. So we got some press. And you can come out and see them after this meeting, so if it's not pouring down rain. But
And where is that video that we can get access to?
it's on WFAA.com, and I posted it on our Facebook page last night. So that's exciting. And if you didn't notice at the very beginning of it, this is Bumpus.
Fall is my favorite. It's a great time for amazing deals. And the rest.
Bumpus Street, they've started infrastructure, so all the dozers are out there. You can go by and see all of that starting. So everything is ramping up right now. So that's kind of a Cotton Grove's update. The guys are going to be out there at 8 o'clock. They're already out there building all the interior walls for the bedrooms and bathroom. So
Back here?
What guys?
On Bumpus.
the house leaders, guys
Interesting.
and girls.
I mean,
Great day.
didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
James is working with them. So some of the things internally that have happened, we've hired a full-time construction assistant for new construction and a part-time construction person for in our neighborhood revitalization. We've reorganized the construction department. James is now doing all vertical construction, so from slab up, working with our volunteers on all of the sites. And Bryant is working on infrastructure, land development, making sure the lots are ready to go when it's time to build on them, because we're getting kind of backed up in that part, getting rezoning, replatting, all of that stuff, lot prep. He's also doing building maintenance. So this facility maintenance, and then the restore in Plano. So we've shifted our resources around. We've also hopefully have a person coming in family services, because that's another risk area. Is you get over 350 applications, but processing through them is slow, very slow, as Olive knows.
They're like this thick.
Yes, and we're not getting through them fast enough. So we're hiring a mortgage processing coordinator to help with that, and also with the NR applications. I have a stack of this many NR applications, so we just can't get through them fast enough. We don't have enough staff, volunteers to process, to get that to move. So
We have Olive and David and Latrice.
It would be
Select.
great to be able to put that in a system, make it more. We've been talking about that though for years.
when we finally got Calyx working on our server, so that's going to help a lot. But that's post, not the application side of it. That's more the mortgage once they pick the lot. So
Don't applications go in favors?
they do.
You can.
And we can print all the forms out too. And then First Bank is still doing the once they pick the lot, they're doing all of that. So that's taking that risk off of us, so that they're meeting all the deadlines of notifications and all of that. So staff-wise, we're shifting around, moving our resources, hopefully, getting better at processing, which is probably our biggest issue right now, is processing digitization. We've kind of fixed volunteer because we got volunteer local. That's helping a lot. So she's not having to answer every single application or every single email that comes in to volunteer one at a time. So just updating our processes. Probate court, we went last week for the one that the mother died and left 2 kids, 18 and 14. So they expedited it. The judge waived all fees, and he was amazing. So we got that through, got her assigned an attorney pro bono to manage the estate, so that they're not going to get the $80,000 cash to do something with. So the sister is only 14, so she'll get half, and the other sister will get half. But the best news of the whole thing is we're spending both Plano grants on purchase of this property, and we will be fully compliant by hopefully next Tuesday when we close with all of our Plano grants. So, which is a huge blessing. So we're spending all 93,000 Tuesday, hopefully. So that's a good thing.
The girls aren't living there.
No, well, Amaya still is, but she's already found another place. So I think she's in the process of moving. It'll be a great rehab, recycle.
Do we know what happened to Lana?
She died.
Well, I know, but
Yeah,
I mean, she was young. She was young.
yeah, 32. But the father died at 26, like 5 years ago. So it's just been, the grandmother has passed away. I mean, it's just been a lot in that family. But the great news is at court, she's filled out her FAFSA. She's applied to either Collin or Prairie View A&M. She wants to go play in the band. So we're helping her. The attorney is being her also mother and helping her get on track so that she can go back to school or go to school and get an education and use these funds to help her through college. And we're helping her with scholarship application. So beyond buying a house, there's a whole lot of social services happening, but it's going to be a really good deal when we can get it closed. Charles Kramer is the administrator of the estate, and then Candace Vogt, VOGT, she's an attorney here in McKinney, is the probate attorney and managing the trust fund for them. So she's gone above and beyond what her.
So because she's 18, she doesn't need.
No, because at court last week, Maya, the daughter that's 18, was assigned administrator of the estate, but she also has an attorney helping her with all of that. So, because the mother died without a will. So a lot of crazy legal things, but all good.
That's pretty good outcome.
Great outcome. Best we could have ever. Grants. If you have any veteran organizations, we have 2 veteran builds coming up, which are amazing families. So we're looking to different organizations that have veteran money. Right now we have about 148,000 out in requests for grants or for the veteran build, and then 530,700 out in grants for cotton grows, other general builds, and everything else. So if you have any grant funding with any organizations you're with, let us know. We're always seeking them, but we have a lot out right now. And hopefully by the end of October, we're going to hear back from Federal Home Loan Bank, because that's a big one. That's a $350,000 grant. So that one should be great. And I think we should hopefully get it. And that's through Jerica's bank, Texas Republic Bank.
Anything else? All right, meeting evaluation. Suggestions? Kind of on time. Good. Are we good with just sending the stuff out ahead of time? I know we used to go out like maybe a day ahead of time, but we want to get that weekend. So, yeah. Future topics. Obviously, we want to continue the advocacy and rescue through any other future topics you guys would like to hear about. As always, feel free to reach out to me via email if something pops up. So we have the calendar in here. One of the things I want to point out with the calendar, so it's hectic to put stuff together for these meetings. I know Celeste's been doing this for a long time. And as we looked at the calendar, we'd always said that executive committee would be the second Monday and board meetings would be the third Friday. But if you look at the calendar and where the days fall, there's a lot of times when both of those happen in the same week, and it gets really hectic. Not only that, but what happens is we have those two meetings, and then it could be another 5 weeks before the next executive meeting, right? So what we've done is we've changed up the calendar a little bit. We still want to have that executive committee the second Monday of every month. Keep it on the calendar. But we will have the board meeting the following Friday. So we have that 2-week buffer in there. So if anything new comes up that we need to address from a board perspective, getting the reports together for anything that comes out of the executive committee, getting that together, getting it out to the board, and then it reduces. So then we only have like a maximum of, I think, 3 weeks between a board meeting and the next executive committee meeting. So it kind of stretches stuff out a little bit. I think it'll aid our committees, finance, getting some of the financial stuff together. It pushes that board meeting a little bit later in the month. So that's reflected in this calendar. It's reflected in the little blurb below. So I think it's basically roughly 11 days after executive committee will happen. So if you have your calendars, Greg, if you have your calendars with your own reminder on there, just adjust them so that we have that buffer in there. So we had the dedication on Wednesday. We've got the board meeting today. The campaign leadership team for Cotton Grove is meeting on 11/4. We got the golf tourney on 11/8. Jason and I will be part of the winning foursome on that. And then executive committee is noon on 11/11, and then the next board meeting will be 11/22.
You have a request. Can you make the agenda bigger?
I can try.
Because it's too small for some people to read.
No, wait.
Or send it to me in Word to print out, because when you PDF it, I think it just makes it even more difficult.
Well, yeah, and it's putting it on the letterhead too. I mean, I have a version that's not on the letterhead. Shrink it.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, we are officially adjourned. If you guys want to go out to the parking lot.
Yes, please come out and look.
We'll see if the heater's installed
No, we met at the last board meeting. Look like on the 8th, I'm taking it's always. How you doing? Good.